black skin looks good on trail. That's for everybody. Find your trail, find your path.
All right, we have a fan favorite guest, Tommie Runz, joining for the long run today to talk all things running ahead of Western States. Tommie, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Fan favorite is crazy. Fan favorite's crazy. Oh man, I'm happy to be here.
I got a lot of people want to hear your story, particularly on this podcast. So,
Okay. All right.
Appreciate the time. And the first question's always a tough one, and that question is, who is Tommie?
Oh man, Tommie. That's probably a tough question. It's like, who am I? I am a dad, a runner. If you're listening to this and you can't tell, I'm a black dude that runs. I feel like I'm a person that's just in the space trying to see what is possible within myself and then figure out a way to stay like inspired and live an inspired life and hopefully inspire others along the way.
I think that's what it's all about, right? It's like, how do we do something we love and help other people figure out how to do it as well? I just wrapped a call with Sid from Pioneers, and we were talking about how black and brown runners are some of the fastest growing cohort of people getting into running. And we talked a little bit about trail as well. You and I have talked about this on and offline, and I'm curious. You're lining up at Western States, which has a very similar looking runner. It's a 50-year-old white guy. I'd say that's kind of the average there. What does it feel like to be lining up and trying to inspire people who look like you, and maybe don't live in the mountains, and show them that they can do it too?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. And as I've gotten closer to trail, I've been trying to figure out like what messaging or I guess what messaging am I actually trying to like convey? And I don't think that it's as simple and as like black and white as I'm trying to inspire people to do this, and to run 100 miles or get into Western States. But I do think it is potentially one of more of that, like, not vague, but more of a broader intention, which is to just show folks that look like me or just feel like they don't belong or uncomfortable in whatever space that it is. And the messaging is like that you belong here and you look good out here too, you know? And it's really just like an invitation to step outside. And it's not necessarily like, hey, go to the mountains or hey, go to France and do this and that. It's really just like, oh, if this is possible, then me finding a trail or something near me that could be more mine than say, Auburn, California. That's the goal, is to have people realize that they can step out and find out what adventures are there for them. And then like ultimately it's a vague statement, but like, black skin looks good on trail, so it's not like that's for them or somebody else. That's for everybody. And find your trail, find your path.
What is it about trail for you? And ultra. You've been doing a lot of longer stuff lately, whether it's with the Speed Project or other adventures that you've been going on. What do you? I just had a conversation with Mark Dowdle, who won the BPN Backyard Ultra.
I've been seeing him on the internet.
Yeah, he's got such a cool story, and for him it was just like, he wants to know that he can be the best version of himself, and he wants to put himself in a place where he's able to suffer and come out the other side and use that lesson in other places in life. Like, what is it about ultras for you that is getting you out the door? Like, it's so fun to watch your training and like go out and do a 26-mile road run with some friends. Like, but that's not easy.
I do resonate with trying to go out and find, and look for like the best version of yourself and keep pushing yourself. And I love that. And I think that that's a layer there. is if I feel inspired or motivated, or like passionate about something, I feel like that's my North Star. Is if I feel like the training for this or the goal of doing this will pull me in a direction that requires dedication and requires like perseverance. And if it requires all that and has me motivated to do it still, like I want to go after doing that. And that's like whether that's like trying to make when I first started running to qualify for Boston, like that was my main goal, you know? And that was kind of far fetched or out of reach for like my subset of the running community at that time too. And but that like drove me to do a lot of the things that I was able to do after that. And then maybe getting, running the 6 majors, that was another goal. And it isn't necessarily like me finding the best version of me. It's just like I like me a lot when I'm consistently like reaching for something or one thing that is just such a far reach that it requires a slow burn and a slow like suffer fest. And I think a lot of it kind of stems back to like alcoholism for me. When I spent so many years with no goal in mind, like I wasn't trying to become peak alcoholic. It was just like this um, perseverance in a way to like push past all the signs and just keep going down that road, almost without a choice. And now I have like an opportunity to find like some of those darker moments in life and some of those maybe not in life but in running where you sign up for these things and you choose to go to the whatever depth that you want. Like for a long time I would for like a few marathons in there I know for sure that I backed off the gas pedal. And then in hindsight, like as soon as I was done with that race, I was like, man, I could have stayed there longer. I could have gotten that goal, or I could have gotten closer to that instead of like grabbing my leg or like, oh, I got a cramp or whatever. Like you just like back off the gas. And as soon as I did that a couple times, I realized like, hey man, like you chose to do this. You suffered way more in like battle with alcoholism. Never again will you like just back off just because you're like uncomfortable for this moment. Um, so I want to continue to push down like that road and see where that leads us. Like when you're dedicated to a goal, but you're okay with suffering as long as you need to get there, reasonably suffering, obviously.
How do you reconcile the tendency to go all in alcoholism, in running, in these arenas where more is not always better? And like you could try running 200 miles a week and see if that
Yeah.
affects your training different, or you could run 100 miles a week, whatever it is. Like, how do you protect your mental and physical health in the pursuit of growth and being better, knowing that you can't just like keep pushing? Or is that something you think about?
I don't necessarily think about it. I think as the time like goes on, as you're like building towards something, there's going to be levels along that path where maybe things feel like a little too much, you know? Um, and maybe it seems a little like heavy, but there's, you do have to be completely honest with yourself. You do have to like, so where am I now? Like a lot of times you'll see people that will like set a goal and maybe the goal is so massive, but I think it's our patience that determines like what you're asking. Like, are you okay with this goal being a 3-year goal or a 5-year goal or just like a never ending goal? Like,
Yeah.
is that okay with you? Because if you're saying that like, hey, I want this like in 3 months, if that goal's too big, you will get to that. Like, I feel like I have to run these workouts and this training block and then you're hurt and then you haven't balanced it right. But I think it's all about like patience. Are you okay with like spreading this growth out over time? Like I get people that ask me like, so I did 425 miles in May, like just for like that was as part of like my training. And and to be honest, in hindsight, like that didn't feel like a lot. Like it just kind of happened. And I looked up and I was, oh, I'm at like 350 right now. And I mean, I didn't change I didn't change the plan. It just kept running the miles that I was given by my coach, Melissa. And it just, so like we just got there, you know? And then people are like, oh man, like how do you do that? Like, how do you consider like injury? Like what, how do you, prevent these things? And to be honest, like it took me, when I started working with her in 2018, it took me, what is it, 8 years later, in a bunch of different iterations of our relationship as like coach and runner, and a bunch of different random goals from the marathon to TSP to now, like for me to have like a month or two of 424 or 425 miles. And I think it's just like, that's a long way to answer your question, but it's just, I think sometimes we have to be honest with where we are and how fast we're trying to like rush something. And then I think, so then a 200-mile week for some people isn't that big of it's a big week, but it's not that big of a deal when it comes to like the carrying of it mentally or physically. Cause it's like, we took a long time to get here.
I got into running in 2013, and by 2014, I thought I could break 3 hours in the marathon in my first marathon.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm 24 years old. I'm a fit guy, and
Oh
the
yeah. You
hubris
got
was
this.
out of control. The ego is out of control. And I ran 3:35 in the first marathon. And I was like, man, that is so slow. And I kept going at it. And I thought I was like a failure of a runner because I didn't break 3 hours. And I just thought it was like owed to me because I was doing the work. Well, it took me 4 years to run that sub 3. And
Mm.
so like I wish I could have heard this conversation then, but like what do you say to someone who sees, we see so much content about people on
Yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
best days, and we see so much of people coming in and they're like, couch to 245 and all this crap. Like what do you
Yeah.
say to people as a way to not like humble them, but help them see, and maybe just going further on what you were saying about the 8-year journey to get to Western States or to get to a 424-mile week. Like, was it hard for you to compartmentalize and to think of growth in that long duration?
No, I think what for me, well, having a coach helps a lot. Like I've had a coach
Sure.
since the moment that I knew I wanted to run. I wanted to run, I wanted to qualify for Boston before I ran my first marathon. So like I knew that
Why?
I needed, because it was like one of those goals that was a little bit out of like my understanding a bit. Like it was right on the edge of like what does this even mean to me? And like how is this even potentially possible? So it allowed me to like attach to something that would keep me rolling in the direction I was. Cause I was at that point I was like sober for 2 years, running for 1 year, so it was like it was definitely one of those like goals that you put out there and it's like, okay, like, this is gonna require a different version of me, but then it's also going to require help. And it's going to also require me to be like honest with myself. And I knew that I couldn't get there by myself. So I got help. I got a coach. But she's always, as we would go through these training blocks, I'd be like, okay, I see other people doing like, should I be at like 80 miles a week or 70 miles a week or 60 miles a week? And she's like, no, let's just do this like 40, we're going to top out at 50, maybe. It depends on how you feel. But she always like would rein me back in and like to trust like the work and the process and set goals along the way. Like if your goal to run the 3-hour marathon is realistically is a 2-year thing for you or a 3-year thing for you, then it's okay to break that down and like have goals along the way. Like just like let's just break it so it's a little more fun. Like just say you're running, 100-miler or like Berlin Marathon in the fall. And you have plenty of time right now to do a lot of things. So why not like maybe not put all the eggs in this one basket? Like how about we do like a half marathon or like a 50K, within 2 months from now or a month from now, and actually have that as a goal. And then break these things down so you can have some fun along the way. We did a lot of that too. It's like how do you break this apart and so you can have moments of like victory and success as long as you're continuing to build to this overall goal. And I think it's just, and you can't look at Instagram or any of these things and like define, or what other people are doing and define how that makes You can't let that define what the work you're doing in the long run. Because like I posted a video the other day. It was like um, using other people's content and what they're saying on Instagram or at Strava as a motivational tool to like maybe get you off the couch. Like if you see my 26-mile run and you go, all right, I'm gonna go do my 10 or go do my 8 or do my 30 or do my whatever, then great. But if you're looking at that like, dang, I only ran 15 today. Should I be running more? Like, should I be hitting up my coach and asking them what's going on? Or should I just be adding miles because Tommie Runz did 102 last week? And if you're using other people's content to judge your own success and judge your own training, then I think then we're all going the wrong direction. And I also feel like the people that are that people feel. I'm not an expert on anything other than like being me and like raising my two kids. But if people look at me as a symbol of something, um, then it's my responsibility and people like you and other people's responsibility to show the good, the highlight reel, but then also in some way, like have some disclaimer or some level of transparency or vulnerability so people understand like this isn't just for no reason and it's not the only way to do this. I don't even know if I answered your question, but I just feel like you got to be careful not trusting like where you are in the process to get to your goals eventually.
Yeah, and you do a great job making all the stuff look fun and making it clear like that this is your way of doing it and it's
Yeah.
not for everyone. Like going out to try a new pair of shoes for a 26-mile
Oh my
run.
God. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
But if
Yeah, that
Kafuzi
was actually
said
that's like, yeah, but you got to trust Kafuzi though. Like, so like, let's just talk about that. Like, I guess I could say more about that, but like, yeah, putting on a pair of shoes, taking them out the box, removing the paper and tossing it in the trash and putting them on and then running 26 miles. For most people, that's a wild concept for anybody really. But I like I know my feet and I know if it were something like that, like I got to like 2 miles or 3 miles and I realized like this ain't it, I'm not doing that for the look. That video would be scrapped. I'm
right.
going back to the car and I'm putting on the other shoes that I have in the car. But at the same time, I do know myself really well and I have a lot of shoes and I know that I know how to run in different shoes. So it's not that big of a deal for me. But I don't think that people should be like, if I see somebody like tomorrow, like next weekend, like fresh out the box, 30
The
miler. I'm
Tommie
like,
Runz
oh
challenge.
my, I should start the Tommie Runz challenge. Can you run 26 out the box?
And the hardest part of the challenge is not running the last point too.
Bros, people were like, what? So close to a marathon, it hurts. Like, I didn't even think about, I didn't think about that at all. Like, I guess a lot of people probably would have just run a little farther. But I should have done it because that would have been my third fastest marathon of the year because I haven't been running marathons.
That's great. In training for my first 50K, I had the 25-mile run on my calendar and I did it on trails and I got back to the parking lot at 25.5 and I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to run another 5 minutes.
You want to know something stupid? So I went to Western
Always.
State's training. Yeah, when I went to Western State's training camp, and I'm a miles guy, bro. Like all this like 50K and 100K stuff is just like I got to do like all the stuff. I got to like okay, 10K is 6.2 and all that, right? And so I went to training camp, and I knew that the first day was supposed to be like 31 miles of Western's training camp. And so like as I got closer to the end of it, I'm like, oh dang, like I'll be right at a 50K. I should make sure I finish this 50K. So I got to the point at the end, 31 miles or whatever, 31.2, and I got like the wristband cut off, so they knew that like I made it back safely. And then I just kept going down the street, and like Brian Metzler was like said to my team, he's like, "What's wrong with him? Why is he running?" He's like, "I don't know. I guess he's trying to get 32 miles." So in my brain, like I thought 50K was 32 miles. So like, I ran and I was passing our car and I yelled at Dante like, "Hey, Google how far 50K is in miles. But I kept going because I just knew it was 32. So I was going to come back to her. And if it was 32.1, I'm thinking 62 point whatever. And so I just ran 32 miles for no reason on that day. But that's how like petty like I can be. But I'm not like worried about getting the marathon though.
That's great. I love that.
And I was wrong.
And you were wrong. Yeah.
And it's 31.1, guys.
But the challenge with running 50Ks and 100Ks and really anything trail is that the distance is really just a suggestion. Like I ran a heavy half, and I learned what heavy half meant when I was 13 miles in and still not off of the trail. It was a 15-mile run, 15 and a half.
Heavy half is crazy.
It was in Aspen, so I did 2 extra miles.
I did the Big Alta 100K, and it was like 60. It was less. It was just less. Oh no. Javelina. My Javelina was 99.7 miles.
Cruel.
Or something like that.
That's cruel.
And I didn't even think about it. I didn't care. But I bet you if somebody told me like right then before I hit the watch stop, I probably would have just like jogged out and came back. Because why would you not want a full 100?
100.0. And Western States, just so you know, if you don't make any wrong turns, it's 100.2.
Oh, if you don't make any wrong turns, it's 100.2?
It's 100 miles to the track, and then you do about a quarter mile on the track, or you do 300 meters on the track.
Okay. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be over 100.
You won't be under, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Can't be doing that.
You can't be under. You can't be the Western States 99. It's in the name. Talking about the training camp, I've seen a lot of fun content coming out of that. It's been a tradition that people have done for a long time. It's a good way to see 70 miles of the course. What is the vibe of the training camp?
Man, the vibe is actually really cool. It seemed like, I mean, I wasn't like interviewing everybody, but there's a lot of people there, but it seemed like a third maybe are like were people that were actually going to run the race, and the rest of them were like most of the rest of them are like just people that love Western and they want to be out there, and maybe they've run in the past or they just I want to be on the course, and it's really cool because it's all there's aid stations, at least 2 a day, throughout the trail. So it's a really cool way to get some like heavy work in and have it be supported, So the vibe was high. Like we were talking to this one like couple, and the guy was like, "Yeah, I've never run 50K before, so hopefully I don't DNF." It was just a fun thing. Like day one, like bro trying not to DNF on day one of training camp. And my thought like leading into this, I thought it was gonna be like wildly intense. And like everybody's like nervous because they're running Western, and it was like a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're running?" Like, and I was like, "It's kind of crazy," So the vibe was really cool and fun and collaborative and very like welcoming and open, and the course was taken care of is already taken care of so well. The people out there are just a vibe for sure, and like I'd recommend it if you can afford it, because it's not cheap, but if you can afford to go out there, and you're not even running Western and you have something coming up after Western. I know there's this couple that is going to be running UTMB in Italy the same day or same weekend as Western. So they came to that and they did all 3 days of the training camp as part of their training. So it was really cool. And I'd suggest like if you don't have to run all 3 days either, but it's expensive, I guess, if you didn't. But yeah, it was a really cool experience.
How did you deal with the heat?
Well, it wasn't as hot as it could have been. Like I think we all kind of wished it was a little hotter. Or at least it was warm. The sun was hot. Like some people had issues, maybe, or like kind of talked about how hot it was, but they knew it was still not going to be as hot as race day. And I do really well with heat. So like I didn't have any moment where I felt like, close to like hot. I knew that I had to stay hydrated, and, it helps if your shirt's wet and stuff like that, but it wasn't that big of an issue. So I kind of do wish it was maybe 10, 15 degrees hotter. That would have been nice to kind of really feel what it's going to feel like on race day, but it was still a vibe though.
My first time out at Western States, it was a hot year and it was like
Oh, geez.
110.
Yeah.
And we were at the track at 6 p.m. and it was like 102 at 6 p.m. out of the canyons. It's, yeah, that place, it gets so hot. I want to talk more about the race itself. Running has got to this point where like there's so much stuff to do constantly
Hmm.
at these races. Like you can go to a major marathon and run
Yeah.
a marathon worth of shakeouts per day.
Uh-huh.
How
Uh-huh.
how do you, and this is like partly a selfish question because I'm curious like how to approach something like this when you're also running the race but like want to do all of the things, right? So like you work with a lot of brands. I think you're running the race with Hoka,
Hmm.
who's a sponsor of the race. Like, how do you reconcile all of the stuff that you need to do, want to do, shouldn't do, leading up to the race, while knowing that there's a pretty big taxing effort on your legs coming up?
Um, I think that this one's could probably be a little easier. Like the marathon weekends are tough. I mean, because if you're you're going to like any of the majors for sure, it's it's not only is it a lot going on. It's like you made it to Chicago Marathon. Like why not enjoy some of that marathon weekend? Like you don't want to be locked away in your room and for New York City weekend. You want to get outside and like see what
Right.
that's all about. So you got to balance like being able to like participate, but then also making sure that you want to have like the race, of your life or whatever. But for this one, it seems like it'll be a little different. I will be out there for TrailCon because I'll be speaking on a couple panels actually. I think it's like it's for me what I'll try my best to just stick to like my running program, like whatever my coach gives me for that week, I'll run those. And if it happens to fit with like a shakeout run, I'll do that. But if not, like you really, well, my goal is just to participate as much as I can when I feel like it, and if you feel like if there's a place to go sit down and watch or talk or something, great. If it's one of those things where you got to stand outside for an hour and just like talk and scream over the music, I'm not doing it. So it's just really just like watching your energy but then also like we do have to remember, I mean, we should remember that we're doing this for fun. Um, Unless you're like Caleb Olson or whoever, like you're not trying to win this race. You do want to have a good race, but it also like you don't want to walk away from Olympic Valley and not have had like you missed out on all the stuff that you could have. So like I try to balance enjoying my life, but then also like preserving the goal.
My challenge is I wake up, I go do my run with a shakeout run, and then I am on my feet for the next 8 hours. Like,
Yeah, that's
oh,
the
great.
problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
3 days in a
That's the
row.
problem. That's the problem. So yeah, I'm gonna try my best to not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So your name came up in a conversation with Erin Cooper in a podcast I did with her around Big Alta.
Yeah.
And we were talking about um, people who work with brands and working with one brand versus multiple brands. And I had posted a question to Threads a few weeks or a few days earlier, kind of curious the perspective of the running community in how they feel about people working with multiple brands in a year. For context,
Mhm.
I spent 3 years working with Puma. I really liked the alignment with the team, with the brand, with the like challenger brand vibe of them
Yeah.
coming back into the space
Yeah.
as a shoe brand. And my hypothesis was that people preferred when influencers or athletes stick to one brand and have that
Yeah.
loyalty. Whereas like I had seen people change shoes and shirts in between brand activations at the Boston
Yeah.
Marathon.
Yeah.
Shout out to Laura Green. Um,
Yeah.
and,
And she'll make
and
a
I,
she'll make a reel out. She'll make a reel out of it though.
yeah. She should. And the feedback was pretty much the complete opposite of what I would have expected. People not only don't care that people work with multiple brands, but they almost prefer it because it
Hmm.
mimics more of the relationship that like regular runners have with their shoes,
Shoe
in that they
brands,
wear
yeah.
multiple brands. So I'm curious for you, how do you do it? How do you work with multiple brands? How do you think about like a Big Alta with Solomon and Western States with Hoka? Like, is it you're trying shoes, you're sharing these opportunities with the audience? Is there really like not a lot of thought that goes into it? How do you think about kind of breaking up the year with different partnerships?
Well, like first, like so I think that there's like I think that both ways of like working with one brand, just like exclusively versus multiple brands. I think that they both can be done well or poorly each. And there's definitely a lot of pluses to working with one brand. Like for me, I if I was gonna work with one brand, it would have to, obviously the brand would have to like very, very much align with not just like who I am, but like what I would like to achieve, you know? And I feel like there's more pressure in that moment than there is working with multiple different brands, because if I decide to like work with, Hoka for the next 2 years and only work with them, not only do I have to make sure that like for me, I have to like their brand, I have to like the aesthetic, I have to like the shoes that the direction that they're going to me. Some people are just like, hey, how much money? But I feel like that's a factor, but it's also, do I trust where you're going, or do I trust that I can fully say this is the shoe that I've decided to wear, and have people go like, if it's trash to everybody but me, that's a wild concept. So you have to trust the the brand itself, but then also like there has to be a lot of alignment with them trusting you, because at that point you can be you at that point. Like I don't have to make every reel be a sales for this one shoe or the next shoe. It's like we rock together. We're doing this together. We're building this, and they're helping me. I'm helping them, and that's more of a partnership in that way. When it comes to like other brands, it's just working with multiple different ones. It's just there's ways where you with tap in with moments. And in every brand that I've like tapped in with, like in that way, and like represented them for like a weekend, I've had, I have relationships with them personally and as a brand, but then I also have been in their products for years at this point. So me saying like, hey, yeah, Drew and Aaron, I'll pull up. So, like I sent them the concept. I sent them the idea of like, hey, this is what I got going on, and here's in full transparency. The end goal is Western States with a different brand, but I'd love to be love to go to Big Alta and represent what you guys have going on, because I know that they obviously have great products. So that's like it's a no brainer for me to be able to tap in with people that I know from different brands to help them do what they're trying to do, but they're also helping me. It's just like it's an even exchange at that point. What I won't do, on the bad side of it, is if you're following somebody and every shoe is the best shoe in the world, and it's every different brand, every brand is, one day it's this brand, this is the best racing shoe, this is the best racing shoe, this is the best racing shoe, and it's all three different brands. That gets a little tricky, And so whenever I'm working with a brand, you can't find much content of me saying that this is my favorite shoe, or this is the best shoe on the market, or things that would probably get people to click on my content more. But I'd rather you open it and just feel like you're running a run with me, and I happen to be showcasing the shoe. And I feel like that's more trustworthy than the sales pitch anyway. Even though that may get more views, I'd rather you walk away from one of my reels and be like, I feel like I just went on a group run with Tommie, and I really like the shoes that he had on. So I'm gonna ask him about it, just like in a group run setting. If you're in a group run and a dude is like talking about how great the shoe is the entire run, that's like that's a wild, like, never mind, bro. No, thank you. Please skip ad. Like we all got the friend that is like a walking like commercial. Please skip. And I try not to do that. And I think that there's all that to say that there's ways to do both. And at this point in my life and career, I would love to like, I'd love to rock with like one brand for a year and see what that's like, because I do have things that I'd rather be talking about, and I think that are more important than the game that we have to play going from, doing it this way, in more of a shallow, short term deal. So I'd love to tap in with a brand for a year and see where that goes and have them be, you know, go along this longer journey with me and see where this like trail thing and road take me. Um, so yeah, I'm not against either one, but there's just good and bad ways to do it.
Talking about the trust factor, I wrote a piece on Substack that was titled something to the effect of like why fit compounds, and it's like saying no to the wrong things is valuable, and saying yes to the right things is obviously valuable. But this long term, long tail approach of the mutual alignment and the feeling good about the decisions and trust being built in droplets and lost in buckets. Like there are so many people out there just trying to make a buck on social. I just um, I published a 1 year of solopreneurship reflection today, and in it, I was like, one of the biggest things I was afraid of is losing my edge, and I felt that my edge was the ability to say no to whatever I wanted because I didn't need that money to put food on my table, and now that like I do need partnerships to put food on my table, I wanted to protect that trust piece as much as possible. Talk to me about your relationship with your audience, with the people that follow you, and like how do you think about these types of alignments and how you're inspiring or not inspiring people to spend their hard-earned dollars?
Yeah, so trust and authenticity was like it is and was like a big driver for me for a very long time. I had a day job until February of last year. So most of the time of me building like this name, Tommie Runz, I didn't need any deal necessarily. It'd been nice to have one and get paid to make a reel, but I didn't need that. So if a brand came to me and was like, "Hey, we want you to wake up," this is a real story. Like, if you want me to, if we want you to wake up with the shoes on, like you get out of the bed, the shoes are on. We want you to get out of the shower, the shoes are on. All this, all like the weird stuff that is so not me at all. I could say no to that. I would say no to that now, but it was like I didn't have to go that direction. Um, and I took pride in like making sure that that was clear that like I'm not gonna if I don't like a shoe or use a product or take a supplement, I'm not going to tell you to take it, and I still won't do that. Um, and that's just me as a person. Like I'd rather save my lives for like something good, But it's like it's just really important to me that like if somebody sees me in something, especially more than once, or are willing to sell it or say that it's good, that I did the work to do that. Like if a brand that I haven't worked with ever, comes to me and says, "Hey, we want you to make real and pay you this much money or whatever." I'll say like, "Okay, send it to me first, and so I can use it and see what I actually like about it, and then we'll go from there." Because I'm not reading off the list of things that you said to if that's not what I feel. But then I also feel like I've done a good job over the last several years, which I think all people should consider more, is finding ways to tell stories around what you're doing. And then brands and things can just like slot themselves into like your normal routines. Like if everything is hit you over the head, this shoe is amazing, and the zero drop and and all this other stuff. If everything is built around that, then it's just a rinse and repeat, and it's the same thing over and over. And we start feeling like you're selling us, and we don't even know whether you like the shoe or not because we don't know. We can't tell. But if your content is more about you and your story as a runner and a journey, um, then I trust you as a person. I believe you, I follow you. And then so if you say that this shoe is actually really good, I'll be more likely to believe that and potentially spend my money on it. And that's the way I try my best to go along with it. And because like LeBron James doesn't ever have to say, "This shoe is so good, guys," blah, blah, blah. The fit is on this. It's really snug. Like he doesn't have to talk us through that. He's living his life as a high performing basketball player. And I assume that he would like to have a good pair of shoes on doing that. So I believe you, LeBron. I didn't believe the Sprite thing, but I believe that he cares about his basketball shoes. And that's where I'd like to be in this running thing is Tommie does all this stuff. He trains all these miles. He runs. And I don't think that there's that many people. This is a little small brag. Like, I don't think there's that many people that like do what I do, that run as much as I do, just on a daily basis, in year round. So if people watch that all year round and I throw on some shoes and I say, these are really good, or I like them a lot, or they're in a reel, you can trust that I care about that shoe. Because at this point, if I throw on the wrong shoe, I'll be broken. Trust me. I cannot have on the wrong shoe right now. Too many
Yeah.
miles.
I think it's a really good point. It's like the product speaks for itself. If the product can speak for itself by being embedded in your story, it's
Mm-hmm.
much different than if you were to say, this is the best shoe I've ever run in, which like we see so much of that and
Yeah.
it's everywhere. And the similarly, like you can't call everyone the GOAT. There's by
Yeah.
definition just one.
Yeah, so many goats out here, bro. So many goats.
Just a
Yeah,
field
like
of goats.
my goat, their goat, the goat, one of the goats. It's like, okay, which one is it?
Yeah.
And I think and then there's reviewers too. There's a whole segment of this and that line got blurred a lot too, Like where when I first started and there was no influencers, there was just shoe reviewers and gear reviewers. And they're different. Like Kafuzi is different to me than an influencer that says this is the best shoe. Because if Kafuzi jumps out the window and says this is the best shoe I've had in a year,
I'll go buy it right now.
I'm going to buy the shoe because like he doesn't say that often, and then he also has tried all these shoes in a very like methodical
But it's like the
like
boy who cried wolf situation
yeah,
just applied to positivity. Like if you're always saying something is the best, then nothing is the best.
and nothing's the best, right? So like the day that I jump out and say this is the best shoe ever, people go, "What's your favorite shoe right now?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't know. Like, don't ask me that." Go Kafuzi, Believe in a Run, all them guys like they got it.
There are a few to me that stick out as like the best shoe I've run in a while. The Puma Velocity 3 is like that for the
Up there.
non-plated in the non-plated space.
I mean, I'm really liking a couple shoes right now. But they're like more like road shoes, like the Hoka Skyward X2. I put a bunch of miles in that, which I don't normally do. I normally like cycle out of shoes really fast. Today I ran like in the Mizuno Neo Vista 3. Such a fun, like easy ride. Right now I'm looking for like ease and comfort, as you probably could imagine. And yeah, so like I don't normally get into like my favorites of all times though, but you know, I let that be for like other folks.
Yeah, fair enough. There are enough people doing shoe reviews. What are you most excited about for Western states?
Man, I'm most excited to see like what like how I hold up against like a challenge like that. I'm excited to see how patient I can be. Um, running a race like that. I mean, because I'm sure that there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of like and anxiety building up and expectation. And can you start out conservative? Can you stay conservative for 60 miles? Or less than conservative. You know what I mean? Like, can you hold back? And just really like excited to see like how the training like holds up. And the curiosity of it all. Like, if you go into a race just so dead set on a goal and you hold it so tight that you blow yourself up in the first half of the marathon or 5K or 100 miler because you just were so dead set on this one thing happening exactly the way you thought it would. Like that's like route for disaster. But if you can go into these like races with some curiosity of like, how will my training hold up to this? Like, will it all make sense? Like, is the pie, or cake baked correctly? You just have to like kind of trust it. And that's really fun because you get to go there and just try to check off all the boxes as they come along and then like problem solve as they happen and then just see, and that's really cool. I mean, because it is a distance where like so many things can happen so many different ways, so many times that it's like you just have to be curious of like, you know, did this what's next? Like, how's this gonna play out?
I talk to a lot of people, and the people that I find are able to do really awesome things approach it with that curiosity. And like the way that you're just like beaming, talking about what's about to happen tells me that you're one of those people that even if it's a bad day, you'll still enjoy it somehow and make it a good day,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah,
But like,
yeah.
but you
Enjoy
need
is
to approach it
crazy.
with that with that curiosity. And have you always had that approach of being curious?
No. Um, I mean, I don't know. Maybe when I was younger, but then I did go down a long road of like, like self hate and um, you know, alcoholism and addiction and stuff. But like, I think as I grew in like the marathon space, and I'll use the Boston example. Like in 2018, I'm like, I want to qualify for Boston. By 2021, pandemic happened, so that didn't happen. But I ran in 2022, so I set this goal, made it happen, and I started that like in Boston with an injury prior to the race that had me like barely run for like the 2 weeks leading up to Boston. Did a
Your
couple
Tommie barely
shakeouts.
runs then.
Yeah, Tommy barely runs. I did a couple shakeouts, like I think I'm all right, but I took off the start of that start line, just like I'm doing this no matter what. And long story short, worst day ever. And then that's like the redemption tour back in the day, and the redemption tour t-shirts. Um, but after that moment is like I thought that I cared and everybody cares about the time that I ran, the goal that I set. And they do. But then I think what really came from that moment more so was like people really gravitated towards potentially how I handled it after.
Yeah.
Like how do you handle success or failure? And I think that um step back from like being so attached to a number allows you to be a little more curious of like, you know, every time that I've tried to force something to happen and needed the one thing to happen that I set my goal out for my set my heart on, it's never fun. And even when you get it, you feel like you missed everything along the way. So that's when I was like, you know what, let's just go into these things, train like we've never trained before. But then on race day, have that goal always and hold on to that, but have it loose enough so you can see around and have some fun and enjoy, and then maybe even have a better day than you thought. Because there's another side to that is when you're holding on to one goal so tight, um, that you almost hold yourself back at times. Like we've seen people go break records and things, and they take their watch off because they don't want to see it because they think that they'll get slowed down. They're having too good of a day, you know. Um, and it kind of reminds me of that like one. I think it was like a story from The Alchemist where like the guy gives, like the rich man gives like this or the wise man gives this guy like oil and a spoon and tells him to like go around the castle and see all the sights and all that stuff. And he puts the oil in the spoon. The guy walks around and sees all these things, and he's like comes back and he's like, "Oh my god, I saw everything." And then he tells him all the stuff he saw, and he's like, "Where's the oil in the spoon?" And he's like, "Oh, like I dropped it, like like it's all gone." But they say, "Okay, well, I'll do this again." So he goes back around, and he comes back, and he said, "What did you see?" Well, it's actually vice versa. So he goes around the first time, and he doesn't see anything because he's holding the oil. And the point is, you have to be able to hold and carry that gift or that thing or that time, but then also experience and see what's out there and be curious of like what's around you, what's happening while you have that goal. And that's kind of how I try to present or like experience all these things, whether it's a race or pulling up to an event or whatever.
Has moving more to trails and ultra helped you see the forest and not get stuck in the trees as you're describing, right? That when the time you could run a 50K in Michigan, you could run a 50K in Florida, you could run a 50K in California, and the climate is different, the temperature is different, the geography, like the race has thousands of feet of climbing, or it's totally flat. Whereas like marathons are pretty similar. The
Hmm.
weather is
Yeah.
a different
That's the
in
only
each.
factor. Yeah.
It's the only factor. And Chicago versus a Boston or New York or whatever, like the route is a little bit different. But like for me, I found that the getting into trails in 2018 was the big unlock that I needed to like stop obsessing over the watch.
Mm.
Did you notice something similar?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, and I think that's why I gravitate towards trail, uh, kind of because of that, and it's new and it's fun and it's different. But I also gravitate towards trail because the training for trail for these ultras is so much different than that like obsessive like marathon training energy. Because like you could be 12 weeks out from your marathon and you're like, bro, I can't hit my pace. It's like, yeah, you're 12 weeks out, but you're
Yeah.
like obsessed over pace every workout, every run. But when in trail, it's a little bit more about there's pace involved, obviously, because you're still doing workouts, but it's more about like getting used to just being outside at this sustained pace or distance. So it's just much more relaxed in that sense. So yeah, like and then ultimately when you get out there for race day, it is much more of like a play with what you're given. You know, like it's more of a like what is in front of you right now. How are you going to handle it, and then just continue to move on. And if you have to stop or slow down to cross a creek, that's okay. You know, like you're not expected to run off or cross it so fast that you barely touch the water. You know, you do have to go through the ups and downs of everything that's happening. Um, and it's expected. You're not expected to just force through everything when it comes to trail, and that's like that's refreshing, but it also is like reminds you of life so much. Like running in general reminds you of life, but trail just how different it can be from at mile 20 and mile 30 and then back to mile 40 it feels better again. Like everything with along with trail is or ultras at least is so reminiscent of like how we would want to live our lives.
I love that, and totally true. For those that are following along and perhaps they're out at Western States this year, what should they shout at you as you run by? What's the encouraging line that you want to hear?
I was gonna say something so stupid.
Say it.
My first thought was like, "Oh, there's a black guy." Um, um,
I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people will say that.
oh my Jesus Christ! Oh man, I'm sure they'll think it. Um, I don't know. I think I just go, like if somebody just yelled out like, "Oh man, it's Tommie Runz" or "Go Tommy" or whatever, that's enough for me. But I want to, I hope that I have the same like kind of success that I had on the road, not necessarily time wise, but I mean, I do want to have my reach some goals, but I definitely want to be more, a little like very direct at like what I'd like to do in trail. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, this is cool. I think there's a lot more black folks, at the start line of major marathons now more than ever. And even when I first started in 2019 marathoning, that it still looked a lot different from then. And I think that that comes from a lot of people doing a lot of work and a lot of conversations to get it to that point. And I want to make sure that like if I'm interested in trail and excited about it, I want to make sure that I'm communicating very clearly like that I'm here to do my thing and get my goals and train hard and see what happens with me. But I'm also here to like crack the door or open the door as wide as possible for like other people to experience what like outdoors has to offer. And if that means you never sign up for a trail race, but you just know that like if Tommie Runz can like make it to like um, you know, Olympic Valley and make do this race that barely people barely get into, then that means I could go find a trail near me and just be outside a little bit longer and enjoy like not having to stop at every crosswalk or be on the side of the road somewhere running. And my goal is to like open the aperture a bit for like us to see that more is possible in this running experience, and it doesn't have to be, sold out marathons every other weekend. It really can have more play, and like we can feel really cool and refreshed after a run, and it may be a trail. And I'm actually like in the next like week I'm like dropping a shirt or putting out a shirt that says "Black skin looks good on trail," and it's a very direct statement. But I think the trail world could use a couple statements like that. But then more importantly, um, it's a statement or a thing that like, people could get behind and say, okay, like, let me go try it. Cause I posted it after Big Alta. I posted like just a random snippet. I said black skin looks good on trail over a picture that I liked of me on the trail. And people like loved that comment and started doing like little hashtags. And like several people said, like DM'd me a picture of them on a trail or tagged me and said like Tommie Runz got me out here running trails. And that means so much, because there's so many different things to experience on the trail than there is running down a straight street and turning left. There's so many lessons, and people are different. And um, I just can't wait to see what a Western States run or race, looks like for me, and then what that looks like to other people, and see where we can take it from there.
Love it. Well, thanks for all the work that you do. For me, I felt that running has changed my life, and Dylan Bowman talks about trail running will save the world. That's his, free trail
Yeah.
slogan. And so part of it for me is like I want to see all of these different groups have that ability to experience what I get to feel and what running has done for me. I've had a lot of conversations with my friend Vivek, who just bought SFRC, and Vivek doesn't
Yeah,
need the
no,
store
Vivek,
to
yeah.
make. Yeah, he's great, and like he doesn't need the store to make money to put food on his table. So he's able to do things in a way that is really community first. And for
Yeah.
him as a South Asian, and the goal of bringing more diversity and representation of people that look like him. And he hosted a bunch of his friends who are Indian at Broken Arrow last year, and like watching them the morning after kind of talk about how their first trail experience was like so much more incredible than anything else they'd ever experienced, running roads. Like it was just like such a privilege to see somebody's first experience when they were given permission or invited to do something totally new that's like not
Hmm.
them. And so like I love hearing that mission. I want to see it be facilitated, and anything I can do to help, drive that, or at least platform that conversation. And um, it takes a lot of different people doing a little bit or a lot of bit of things to push it forward. So appreciate you being out there doing your thing, and giving a voice and a story to it all.
Yeah. No, no, I appreciate that, man. Thanks so much. And yeah, I guess I'll be seeing you soon. I'll see you out there, right?
Yep, I'll be there.
Okay.
I will be there, and yeah, we gotta share some miles, and
Yeah,
and
for
uh,
sure.
and looking forward to it.
All right, man. Thanks so much, bro.